There is a hidden treasure of unlimited potential, a gift given by the Creator that resides within each of us, only waiting to be discovered. The renowned psychologist Carl Jung once said, "Every human life contains a potential. If that potential is not fulfilled, then the life was wasted." Mythologist and author Michael Meade says it another way. There is no theory or system, no doctrine or dogma that can substitute for a life unlived, for a story undeveloped, for a fate not faced, for a destiny not embraced. Having worked with children and young people most of my life, this awareness has always been keenly present in my spirit. Children often remind us that there is unlimited potential housed within the human framework. That potential can be nurtured, developed, and put to good use, or it can be squandered, perverted, or even lost completely. As a youth minister, a piano teacher, career educator, reading specialist, and teacher consultant, I have helped many children and young people uncover and develop their gifts, talents, and abilities. But I tell you honestly, there is nothing sadder or more heart-wrenching than to see someone's potential remain completely dormant or untapped within. The goal of all the earliest religions was simply to lead seekers to discover their God-given potential and change the world. All of the world's great teachers, prophets, from Jesus to Muhammad to Buddha or Confucius, all spoke to the hidden or untapped potential stored within human beings. Likewise, there are many traditional myths or folk tales which speak about the search for self-actualization, inner fulfillment, or life's greatest rewards. They all begin with a shaman, a genie, or a leprechaun. And as the story motif typically goes, this mystical being finds a young seeker, or maybe even an old couple that's unfulfilled, and informs them that he has come to grant them just one wish. Anything they want, but only one wish. Unfortunately, the couple can't decide what they truly want most. The wife asks for gold and silver, and the husband for a mansion and some new tools. The wife adds clothing and jewelry, and the husband a horse and carriage. They can't decide upon just one wish. So the shaman scolds them for being avaricious and says something like, "For your greed and indecision, I will not grant any of your wishes. But since you're clearly in need, I will give you one hint to find the satisfaction and inner fulfillment that you desire. I have hidden a treasure in a dark, deep cave in the forest, a pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. All you have to do is find it." Why is it so difficult for us to see that our search for the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow is only hiding the fact that we are the dark cave and its hidden treasure, both the rainbow and the pot of gold? Like the couple in the story, we all must wrestle with our own selfish greed, individualism, and self-centeredness. Naively thinking the world revolves around self is not only certain to stunt one's spiritual growth and understanding, but it is truly a recipe for self-destruction. Let me ask you a question. What good has adopting a Western religion of individual salvation and a materialistic culture of hedonistic greed done for the happiness and fulfillment of our people? Best Self Theology teaches us that as we live, we continue to give birth to different aspects of ourselves. So in order to triumph over life in a material world, like Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden, we must all do battle with our selfish ego, the lower self, in order to evolve and become our higher or best self. We must fight the beast within if we expect to successfully defeat the beast without. As we journey through life little by little, thanks to our experiences, we move closer to spiritual understanding, no matter how wise or misguided we may be. Whatever path the soul takes, regardless of the position we hold in society, our inner potential remains the same. Potential, the inner treasure, gold, is always there, inviting us to discover or uncover it, so we may evolve toward our Creator. So the question becomes, how can I get to the realm of higher consciousness and discover the gold at the end of the rainbow? How can I uncover the hidden treasure of untapped potential buried within? It is the same age-old burning question that led to the establishment of the world's first systems of civilization, religion, science, mathematics, and art. The Egyptian Mystery Temple was an ancient educational system which taught students how to concentrate their African intellectual ability and spiritual beliefs of monotheism into the mastering of the arts and sciences, and to tap into their unlimited potential in order to shape the world into their own reality. Our African ancestors understood the concept known by some as summum bonum, a Latin expression meaning the pursuit of the highest good. This idea originated in Egyptian culture and was later borrowed or adapted into Roman culture. In Egyptian religion, it was developed through an ethical system of life principles known as Mayat. Disciples of Mayat sought a deeper awareness of the inner sanctuary known as the human body. The focus of caring for one's personal shrine formed the foundational roots of what later became known as organized religion. According to Egyptian mythology, Mayat was the goddess of Egyptian religion and the guardian of the human soul. She wore a feather in her head as a symbol of higher spiritual truth. And so Mayat represents the ethical and moral principle that all Egyptian citizens were expected to follow throughout their daily lives. Mayat practitioners were expected to act with honor and truth in matters that involve family, community, the nation, the environment, and the divine. As it evolved a few millennia later in Christian theology, it is interpreted as a life led in closer communion with God by a seeker, disciple, or follower, wherein one's happiness can be found in the love of God and devotion to serving the greatest good. According to the Bible, Brother Moses was raised in the Pharaoh's palace from birth and thus received his formal education through the Egyptian Mystery Temple system. As he evolved in his spiritual quest and calling, the 42 principles of Mayat were later woven into the religion of Moses, establishing the foundation for the Hebrew spiritual tradition, a religious tradition which included the Ten Commandments and the Ethiopian philosophy and teachings of his father-in-law Jethro. In my own personal spiritual quest, I came to know the interconnection between these ancient spiritual traditions and my own modern-day spiritual journey. The master teacher and founder of the Pan-African Orthodox Christian Church, the late Reverend Albert B. Clegg Jr., known to some as Jeramogi Abebe Ajiman, brought these ancient practices into a modern context by evolving the ethical, moral, and spiritual traditions for a new era. This precious gift to modern Christianity we call Kua, the Christian science of spiritual rebirth. Like Mayat, its predecessor, Kua brings together the ancient spiritual disciplines of prayer, meditation, fasting, movement, ritual, and sacraments, which collectively initiate inner transformation, leading seekers to overcome their inner blocks and barriers in order to discover their inner potential and move closer toward self-actualization. I began practicing Kua around the age of 23, incorporating meditation, chanting, dancing, prayer circle, small group rituals, fasting, macrobiotics, which is a holistic form of eating. And over the years, these practices radically changed my life inside and out, empowering me to cultivate and develop my inner gifts and to share them with my community at home and abroad. One of the major lessons I learned early on in my spiritual quest was that buying and consuming things was not the path to happiness or fulfillment. I came to understand the scripture from John chapter 6, verse 63, which says, "It is the Spirit that gives life. The flesh has nothing to offer." About 20 years ago, the spiritual practices of Chui evolved yet again, introducing to a new generation the path of inner healing in a system known as Best Self Theology, developed by Jermoji Meneliki Mathi, our current presiding bishop. Best Self Theology is a natural progression of these same invaluable spiritual principles based on the revelation that all life is created to flourish. Living in an age where we have witnessed the overconsumption of oil, natural gas, phosphorus, coal, water, and many other natural resources, we must figure out and come up with creative ways to ensure that our descendants are able to thrive and survive. These are issues that threaten the survival of all humans, regardless of creed, race, or religion. Not only are we facing the consequence and the aftermath of a protracted global pandemic, racial injustice, voter suppression, war, and human deprivation, but we also must address the problems of global warming, climate change, and the loss of many forms of both animal and plant life. More than ever before, we collectively need to find the pot of gold or the hidden treasure waiting for us at the end of the rainbow. More than ever before, we need to tap into our inherent creative genius in order to bring an end to the needless suffering of our people across the diaspora. Human potential is truly the only unlimited resource we have in this world. If enough human beings are devoted to the path of inner transformation, if a critical mass chose to pursue the spiritual path, we could address these seemingly overwhelming dilemmas and bring the world back into conformity with divine will and purpose. Whether we choose to accept it or not, the reality we live in will not be fixed by a mystical African shaman, a genie, a leprechaun, nor a crucified Jew who hung, died, and bled on a cross 2,000 years ago. So who can we turn to find the lost treasure we so desperately seek? If there really is a pot of gold waiting for us out there somewhere, we must find the courage to go within and mend the wounds, remove the blocks and barriers, and become co-creators of our own human destiny. All the answers we seek are already inside of us. All we have to do is what Jesus shared with his disciples and followers 2 millenniums ago when he told them, "If you seek, you will find." In a poem entitled "The Messiah," the late Reverend Albert B. Clegg Jr. says it best. "So every town or ghetto is Bethlehem, and every child born of a black Madonna is but a new Messiah, only waiting to discover his or her inner divinity." The truth of the matter is we can only change the world by changing ourselves, since ultimately ourselves is the only thing we can control. We are each endowed with the spark of divinity that gives us the dynamic potential to perpetually learn, grow, improve, and adapt. The maximization of human potential is our primary religious obligation. Thus, striving to be our best possible selves allows us to use our developed potential to serve the Most High and one another. So we don't need to wait for the return of some great prophet or savior, a superhero, or an intelligent being from another galaxy to swoop in and save us from ourselves. We don't need to wait for the right president or the right rebel leader or some ego-driven IT innovator to come along and fix the human condition. All we have to do is shift our fixed mindset to a growth mindset, and thus give ourselves permission to awaken the healer, the teacher, the prophet, the leader, the dreamer within our very own souls, because there is a pot of gold, a hidden treasure of unlimited potential, a gift given by our Creator that resides within each of us, only waiting to be discovered.